I will never get used to that voice. Ladies and gentlemen, this is JK'z Rewatchable Hour. We're doing a subject that we had no idea would take the effect that it did today. We decided a week ago to talk about school shootings and mass murders and stuff like that. And obviously, everybody knows what's going on down in Florida today. But I am your host, JDUBBS, with my guests Jennifer, Jacqueline, George, and Becky. How are you all doing tonight?
Okay.
Pretty good.
Typically, we kind of do a little razzle dazzle, when I introduce everybody. I just don't feel that's the need. You know, Jen actually has just a gruesome fact that I want her to share just to start off the show. Jen, if you could just go ahead and do that.
Well, I leave the TV on for Dozer when I leave in the morning. Usually it's CBS, but there's different cities that do the news that week. So it was Pittsburgh, and they ran a story about a school shooting that was stopped at the State College High School in Pennsylvania. The 20-year-old planned it for April 21st. He wanted to do it on April 20th, but it was a Sunday because it would have been the 26th anniversary of Columbine. So the kid had a hit list. He wanted to plant bombs in the bathroom. He got caught because he was talking about it at like a youth center, and he told them all his plans and showed his gun and everything. And his reason was that the school didn't serve his educational needs and failed him. So, but that was stopped. It didn't happen. So luckily, thank God that didn't happen. But that's what I had. There was one that same day, there was one at Dallas, Texas. 4 were injured. It was the second school shooting in a year at that same high school.
The reason why I asked Jen to lead in with that is because when she was telling me what she was making notes, and she told me about the anniversary of Columbine and the reason why the kid wanted to do it, and I was just like, that's like ugly. That's gruesome. That's just like I don't know. I'm sorry that we're doing this show on the day that something had happened like this in and around Florida. It's just somebody who wanted to do it on the anniversary of another school shooting. That's just really ugly and gruesome. And George, I know that you had some general facts that you wanted to add.
Yeah. I read a study that did just U.S. mass shootings, and the study was 1966 to 2022. In the U.S., there have been 441 mass shootings in the United States from 1966 to 2022. These resulted in 1,569 deaths, 3,923 total victims, counting injured and deceased. Now, from 1966 to 1975, there were only 12 mass shootings in the U.S. From 2013 to 2022, there were 170. 95.7% are committed by males. 29% are at the workplace. 24.3% are at a school. The average age of the mass shooter is 33.4 years old. 75.1% used a handgun, and 54.1% were white male. No, were whites. The deadliest U.S. mass shootings were Las Vegas, where 60 were killed and 867 injured. The Pulse Club in Florida, where 49 died, 58 injured. Virginia Tech, 32 deaths, 23 injured. And Sandy Hook Elementary, 26 deaths. Says here, and only two were injured though, but 26 deaths. That was what was in the study.
That is just, I was trying to make notes. I'll have to have you send me all that information because I just want to include that when we upload it to all of our platforms. I mean, that is just, just, yeah, I don't even, I just use the word gruesome because just, I don't know. Becky, I know that you were holding up something. I couldn't really see it, but go ahead, chime
Well,
in.
no, Jennifer nailed it with what I had. I had the article there. It was Pennsylvania school shooting was planned for the Columbine anniversary, which that was supposed to be April 20th, but because that's Easter Sunday, he was going to go the next day. Now, Columbine, was like the first major one that people remember news coverage on. I mean, there were more before that, and there's been plenty after. And I've got a timeline of them all the way up until last year, from 99 until 2024 of this. And, Columbine was planned for April 20th because that was, as if you go deeper and read about the two suspects, that was Adolf Hitler's birthday. So they were paying homage to him. The two boys that were involved were two seniors, and they were basically outcasts of the outcasts. You know how we all had those little cliques in school. We had the jocks, and we had the whatever, the nerds, and we had there was a group left over with the outcasts. Well, these outcasts used to pick on the Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, and they just Eric was on medication for something, and I do believe Dylan was extremely depressed, and this was his way out. He kind of really wanted to die, and so his way out was following his friend Eric, who was very manipulative and very narcissistic, and talked him into it. They tried to talk other people into joining them, and nobody would. They had many bombs set up. Most of them did not work. They had Molotov cocktails all set up. They had propane bombs made up in their cars that they left out in the parking lot. So that way they were set to go off after the shooting. And a lot of the shooting didn't go as they planned because people were huddled in the library, and they didn't want that. They kind of wanted to see everybody running and screaming, and they didn't want to see everybody huddled under tables and all that. I was reading it really into detail, and it was terrible. These boys were completely mentally unstable, if you think about it, and they were picked on a lot. They just didn't fit in with anyone, and with that, it kind of eats away at you. And I do understand, I'm not condoning any of their behavior, because what they did is gruesome, and there were many copycat shooters after this, and they reference back to Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold and what they did at Columbine High School. And I mean, one person didn't die until, I think it was, oh, hang on here. There were more. I can't even remember. Hang on here. I have it. One died much later, because they had been paralyzed. But
Girl.
yep, 16 died at the school, and another included both the perpetrators and a victim who died in 2025. She just recently passed.
Yeah, I saw that
Yeah.
in the news.
And then the 23 injured, and 20 were by gunfire. So the others were just because they fell over or whatever trying to get out of the school. And the convictions of the gun suppliers, because they were weapon suppliers, one did 6 years in prison, one did 4.5 years in prison, because they sold guns to minors, which was illegal. And they just, it's hard to look at this stuff and try not to feel compassion for the families. And this happened back in 1999, And here we are coming up on 2025 and it's still raw. And I bet these families still feel it every single day. And these boys, they needed help. They needed to reach out. I wish back then we had more awareness and acceptance that people have a mental issue or need help with their mental issues. And maybe some of this could have been spared. It's been, I mean, there's been many other instances after this that were people were trying to be like them. And we've only heard about the really bad ones. We don't really hear about the one where the gun was brought into school and nobody did any, the family, the whoever brought it in, they got expelled or suspended or whatever. We only hear of the ones where there's an active shooter. And it's pretty bad that, most of these happened in high schools. There's been a few that happened at colleges, a few that happened in middle schools. And, the one that really, really got me upset when I was pregnant with the kids was Sandy Hook. And that was in 2012. And they were only 6 and 7 years old. I was deeply pregnant, and it was like about 2 weeks before Charlie passed away when this happened. So I was already emotional. Well, he hadn't died. I didn't know he was going to die, but I was very emotional being that pregnant, carrying twins. I was close to delivering, and seeing that happen. 20 children were killed, and that man killed his mother before he went to the school. And they can't really say what the motive is. They tried saying, he ended up killing himself, like a lot of these people do, but he killed his mother before he went to the school, and he just opened fire on all the women in that school. Um, they were trying to blame him as a teenager. He was diagnosed with Asperger's. Um, that's not why he did it. They also said he had depression, anxiety, and obsessive compulsive disorder, and said neither caused or led to his murderous acts. It said his severe and deteriorating internalized mental health problems combined with an atypical preoccupation with violence and access to deadly weapons proved a recipe for mass murder. So, he was another person who was plagued with mental issues and had access to these guns that, don't get me started on that, because I am not one for saying all guns are bad, because I don't believe that. But at the same time, your average law-abiding citizen that happens to own a gun is not going to go off on a murderous rampage. And most of these guns are either obtained illegally or they're obtained legally, but this person has a mental problem. And that should not, that should go into, the background checks and things like that. So we're just, a lot of these are really, really upsetting, and I really wish that they didn't happen. And I feel sorry for every single person that lost a family member from these shootings. But a lot of it is mental health has been taboo to talk about, and I don't think that we should do that anymore. I think everyone should get the help that they need.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I apologize, everybody. Jackie got kicked off, and I was trying to send her the invite, and I was trying to do it from my phone, but I couldn't. But so the invite's out there. She'll be back hopefully. Yeah, I don't. I don't really know what's that.
They're all sad. I mean,
Yeah.
and there's another one that I've got that really tripped my trigger, and this happened way back in 2006.
Amish.
Yep, the West Nickel Mine School. That one was awful, and the fact why he did that is the stupidest reason ever. He wanted to kill the girls because he thought he would harm them and touch them because he was a pedophile. That is a bunch of crap. I'm sorry, and the thing is, they forgave him even though he killed himself. They forgave him. I'm like, he killed he killed all but one of the girls that was in there because she escaped, and he sent all the boys outside to help him bring stuff in, and then he released the boys. But he lined up the girls and killed them all because he didn't want to harm them. So he killed them.
I guess I don't remember that one. I'll have to
Yeah,
refresh that one.
West Nickel Mine school shooting,
I have it written down.
October 2nd, 2006. And it was, all of these shootings happen, in like less than an hour time frame. This one actually tells you he burst into the classroom at 10:25 and he was dead by 11:07. And that's, and this was in an Amish community, and the teacher ran out of the building and went to the neighbors, who happened to be one of the Amish that had one of the phones on the property, and he called 911 and he flagged down cops that were coming by because it was in the middle of nowhere. And thankfully these Amish later on, they tore that school building down and built another one in a different location because it was just too heartbreaking to, we don't really get a chance to see how the Amish feel, because most of the time they kind of don't want us to see how they're feeling. But I thought that was nice that they built it on a different location and didn't have that happen again. That one really triggered me back then, because these poor little girls, were so scared. And the one little girl's, there were two sisters, and the one got away and she ran home. And I don't know, I can't remember which one it was. I didn't print all the information. I just know there were the two sisters, and the one ran home and her sister was killed, within minutes of her leaving the school. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's just, I don't, there's so many words we could use. Jen, what were you saying? I think I cut you off.
No,
Oh,
no,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
no, it was just the Amish. didn't say anything.
I guess I don't remember that one. I'm gonna have to
He killed,
really research that.
he shot 10 girls, killing
6.
five in the initial incident, and a sixth who died of her injuries last year in 2024. So that's, they demolished it and built another schoolhouse. And at the time, it was the worst school shooting in Pennsylvania history, because at the time they really didn't have any. So, I mean, one child lost in a school shooting is one too many. So,
Oh God, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's nothing compared to the other ones, but I'm telling you, it's scary that someone would actually break into an Amish school and kill them. I mean, they're pacifists, they're quiet, they generally keep to themselves. Those little girls did nothing to him, and he killed them because he thought he might harm them. So yeah, that does not make sense.
George, do you have anything to add? I'm going to try to send the invite to Jackie again.
Yeah, I got one that's a little less known. But I actually saw it on one of the shows on the ID channel. And I looked it up and I did a little bit of research on it. It's Cleveland Elementary School in San Diego, California. On January 29th, 1979, at about 8:30 in the morning, Brenda Spencer, who was 16, lived across the street from the elementary school, and she started shooting from her window, and she ended up, in the process, the principal and a custodian from the school were killed. 8 children and a police officer were injured. She shot at anything that moved, which caused a SWAT standoff that lasted 6 hours. And she fired a total of 36 rounds from her .22 rifle. When she was asked why she did it, her response was, "I don't like Mondays. This livens up the day."
There you go.
She pleaded guilty to 2 murder charges and assault with a deadly weapon, sentenced to life in prison with a chance of parole after 25 years. On February 21st, 2025, she was denied her 7th parole trial. That she was denied parole on her 7th attempt. It's a little less known, but I remember watching the show and she literally, that's all she did. It was just something for her to do on a Monday morning.
That's why some of them do it. Just
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like all
Like,
of the movie theater shootings.
yeah. Yeah. My
59-year-old man that
morning.
went away.
Yeah.
And
My morning was being boring, so I decided I'd shoot at some people.
Go ahead, Jen.
No, I'm done.
Okay. You know, actually, I was going to talk about, I don't know. I don't, it's really hard to just talk about the school shooting, any shooting, I mean, because there is so many, and George, you brought up one that I don't know if anybody heard of, and you and Jen both made up, you both were correct by saying, there you go. I mean, you don't have a legitimate reason because it's a Monday and you hate Mondays. And, I don't know why somebody would go into any school. And I'm not trying to say that any school is better than any other, but you go into an Amish or Mennonite school. I mean, like, they're very nice people. And I just can't imagine, Jen, you talked about, or you said movie theater. I just don't fathom, or I don't even know if I can even understand going into any place, but we're going to talk about movie theaters, because there's been so many. Jen, I think you have some written down, don't you?
I have the Aurora movie theater in 2012 where he killed 12. He used, I can't read my writing, tear gas, grenades, and lots of guns. And then the Lafayette, Louisiana, it was in 2015. It was a 59-year-old man, so you can't say he was a kid with problems, but he just felt like killing 4 people and 14. I don't know. Killed 2, injured 9. And those 2 that I got for the movie theaters.
We obviously we're all very well aware of there whether it be a nightclub or a movie theater, sometimes it makes people think like they don't want to leave their house, and again, I'm not trying to take away the importance of the lost ones and their families and their friends, but if people were going to this club or this movie theater regularly and all of this stuff is going on, it makes innocent people, which everybody is innocent. I'm trying to choose my words correctly. I apologize if I don't, but it kind of makes people think I don't want to go to the movie theater just in case, right? I mean, George and Jen, you both said that this lady, I forget her name, I'm sorry, just shot up because it was a Monday and she hates Mondays. I mean,
Yeah. Okay. And then there's another one that is an actual considered a domestic terrorist, Oklahoma City bombing in 1995.
Yeah.
And that was April 19th, 1995. And that was Timothy McVeigh. And that bombing killed 167 people, including 19 children. It was a federal building and it had a daycare center in it. And that was just, I remember that when it happened too, just seeing it on there. He just, made that, it was the truck bomb and it blew everything up. And those people had no idea what was happening. I'm glad he did get the death penalty and he ended up dying in 2001. And they kind of did that rather quick. It happened in 1995 and he was already gone by 2001. So but he had a pretty good understanding of explosives, and he definitely killed a lot of people with one big blast. And I remember that too. I remember that all those kids were gone.
Obviously you guys are way up more on current events than I am. Jen or George or Becky, does anybody know the preliminary reports of what happened in the college in Florida at Florida State University? Does anybody know why? Or
They
Let
don't
me
know
see what
why he took his mom. I told you he took his mom's gun. She was a sheriff's deputy.
okay, yep.
They don't have a why yet.
Yeah. 20-year-old son of a sheriff's deputy opened fire at Florida State University with his mother's former service weapon, killing two people and wounding at least 6 others. Officers wounded the shooter. Okay. They obviously have not issued any names. They issued an active shooter alert at midday. By mid-afternoon, they neutralized the threat, which meant it hadn't been going on all that long.
Okay. Like
Yeah,
it's, I don't,
I'm
I'm just
flipping
not,
through here, just trying to
yeah, no,
find
no,
some.
yep. I'm just not one that keeps up on current events.
Well, they
Yeah,
were there right away and they wounded him because he wasn't giving himself up. So they wounded him and they didn't shoot him, which
Yeah, this is.
never.
Officers quickly arrived and shot and wounded the shooter after he refused to comply with commands. They said the
Okay.
suspect refused to speak with police afterwards, and it's not believed that the suspect shot at officers.
Okay.
Uh,
So
all
what,
classes and university events are canceled through Friday.
which should be, of course. I mean,
Yeah.
because like I think Becky, you said the word copycat earlier. Yeah, I mean, I think everybody or a lot of people are looking for their 15 minutes of fame, and everybody knows this day and age, everything is going to go on TV. There's going to be what 4 or 5 different news camera helicopters. Going to be everything social media, and everybody wants their 15 minutes of fame. So this goes back to what I said about the movie theater. You know, people are just hanging out on their campus doing whatever, and all of a sudden, somebody for whatever reason. I mean, that also traumatizes everybody. You know, just think about it. You just never know what could ever happen next. And
Okay. They did
go
name the
ahead.
suspect. I did get that. I've got that
Okay.
now.
Okay.
Yep. It says that he was identified as Phoenix. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right. Eichner or Ickner. It's Ikner. The son of a sheriff's deputy within the Leon County Sheriff was making this statement. Said it was the son of a deputy within his department. It said he was a long-standing member of the sheriff's office youth advisory council and engaged in a number of training programs with the office. That it said he's believed to be an FSU student, and that's all they've said. They don't have a why or what. They just said who. That's the first I've seen of a who. That's the first time I've seen a name. I don't believe they've named any victims because I don't know if they can do that yet. So
um it just popped into my head. One of the most
me
current
too.
ones that actually close to all of us was it was up in Rochester, right? The guy that drove to Tops, or the young kid that drove
That
to
was
Tops,
that was
That
in
was
Buffalo.
Buffalo.
or Buffalo. Jen, do you
Yeah.
have that written down?
Yep. Tops in Buffalo 2022 killed 10, injured 3, and they were mostly African American.
And what was I think I know, but I don't want to speak if I don't. But Jen or George, what is the reasoning behind it? Do you guys know? Or
He
Becky?
didn't like the protests that were going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
They were protesting because I don't remember which one, but one of the the black people that were being detained by police was killed. I don't know
Right.
which
Did
one.
that have something to do with like how long ago was that?
It was
2 years?
2022, so I don't remember if
Couple years.
2022. I can't
Yeah.
remember which one that was.
I don't know if it was.
I know what the incident that you're talking about. I remember that, but I can't remember what the protest was.
Yeah, yeah.
Wasn't that the white guy that drove up from like
From
Yeah,
Rochester.
he drove like 3. Yeah, Jen, go ahead.
Yeah. I think it came from
No.
Rochester area.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he drove
he did.
like hours to get there
yeah.
and just opened fire and it was he was like some I don't know if I can say it properly. He was some type of skinhead type person. I don't
White
know if he was an
supremacist.
actual white supremacist. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think he was an actual skinhead. I don't know the right terminology, but I do believe he was, yeah, like white supremacist. So.
Yeah.
So, but didn't he drive from like Rochester to, or it was local, right? Or it was up in Buffalo.
Rochester to Buffalo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we drove from Rochester to Buffalo. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's what it was. Yeah.
You know, and I don't know how long that commute is, but you know, that just like continues to enrage an individual. And you know, I'm just an individual who never had a problem with anybody protesting and standing up for what they believe in. And
Our
to get,
country is based on a protest.
yeah,
Yeah,
We
they didn't
wouldn't,
want to pay. They didn't want to pay the taxes on their tea,
Yeah.
so they dumped it
Yeah.
into the harbor.
yeah, we wouldn't be a country if it wasn't for a protest.
yeah, I know, but you know, in my opinion is just, you know, some people just hated the fact that people were expressing their right to their voice. And like I'm not going to mention names, but like it just cringed on me when people are like, oh my god, there's all these protests. But I'm like, but what does it bother you? They're just standing up for what they're believing in. And you know, I'm just baffled that somebody gets so angry because of a difference of views or opinions that they want to escalate it to violence and then into murder. And
Yeah.
It's
Then
a
I
difference
realized-
also of skin color. It's a difference of sexuality. The Pulse nightclub, it was a gay nightclub.
Yep, they
Yeah.
targeted them because they were all gay.
Buffalo, African American. I mean, it's because I don't agree with you, so I'm just going to go shoot you up. That's
Yeah.
not. It's not right. It's not.
It's not acceptable. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not. There's no arguing that case there. It's not
Mhm.
acceptable. You know, I'm bored, so I'm just going to shoot
Okay,
people up. I
obviously,
don't like your skin color. I don't like who you're sleeping with. You know, that doesn't give anyone the right to kill someone. You
Yep.
know,
No.
agreed. But you know, like I've heard so many people, and again, I'm not going to mention names, because I mean Jen knows. It's just you're getting angry over somebody who's miles, hundreds, thousands miles away from you, and they're peacefully protesting with signs because they want justice, and you're upset at that. But yet, this is where, you know, I know people are going to be like, well, you can't really say that, but okay. So the same people that are getting pissed off that people are and were protesting, if that was your loved one that was wrongfully murdered, you would be doing and feeling the same way. So there's too much hypocrisy that goes on, and I know that's going to make some people who listen to this show mad, but you know, if there's a crowd of 50 people because this individual was wrongfully murdered, and yet say this family over here lost their two kids, right, in an accidental shooting and or whatever, they would be wanting the same thing that all these other people are wanting, justice, and they want their voice heard. But yet, because it's not them, they have a problem with these people over here. And to me, that is horrible. That is hypocrisy, and it's just fucking stupid in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I'm going to take a quick commercial break. We'll see if we can get Jackie back on, and we'll come back. I know Jen's got some more notes. Becky, George, you got some stuff, and you know we're going to cover it all tonight, if that's okay with you, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go anywhere, you beautiful people.
I gotta go pee pee.
Go off camera though.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we all love the voice. I don't know if our listeners can hear it. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. We're talking about school shootings and mass murders and stuff that just goes on in the country, and what happened in Florida today on the campus of Florida State University. Unfortunately, we lost Jackie. The cat touched her screen and she can't come back. So Jackie, if you're listening, thank you for staying on, even though we can't see you. Appreciate it. So this is part two. We all know everybody has social media. We all know what goes on in this world. We talked about people walking into movie theaters and in schools. We talked about an individual walking into an Amish school. I'm blown away by that. So we're going to talk about how all of this happens for the LGBTQ community. everybody knows what that stands for. It's just basically, people are mad that I'm just going to put it in my words, and I'm not disrespecting anybody. People who are gay or bisexual or trans, some people have a problem with that. I am baffled. I don't understand why. And they open their own clubs and or whatever, and they're having a good time, and somebody goes in and bombs them or shoots them up. Why?
That's awful.
Because they're fucking different. Who cares? Let them be. I don't mean it like that. They are human beings. You know, they want to be happy, and I am okay with that, and I support them. What's that?
They're not hurting you.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but why do people have such a problem with it? Like, I don't understand.
I think they have a old school mentality, which is not so much acceptable, but it's how it's easy to explain. They were raised a certain way, so they think you need to be a certain way, and it's not always going to go that way. Um, a lot of times, if you think back, even just in the 80s, if you came out as gay, people were nasty to you. I remember when AIDS was first making rounds, and that poor kid Ryan White got the crap beat out of him because he got HIV and developed AIDS. He was a hemophiliac who got a blood transfusion, and blood wasn't being, tested as well as it is now. And people, I mean, just think of our famous musicians that didn't come out as gay or bisexual until they were like near death because it was frowned upon. And it's, nowadays, everybody's, supposedly gay or whatever, but I it's I don't think that they should push that on kids, obviously, but I think a lot of their old school thinking is if you're gay, you like kids. And that's where they're going off with the trans and the gay people going into their bathrooms. That's what they're going on. They're going on old school mentality. Now, just because, okay, say I'm a woman and say I'm going to become a man, so I am technically a man now, and I go into a men's restroom and there's a little boy in there, it doesn't mean I'm going to go after him. It just means that I'm trying to become a man, so I have to try and figure out how to maneuver my way in there. But it's the same as for a man going into a woman's bathroom that he's going through the change. Once he goes, that's why I kind of like the unisex or the family bathrooms where you could just go in and you're alone. Stuff like that. It's a lot easier to handle. But just because somebody is gay does not mean they like little kids. And I think that's what they're going back on. They're going back on a few of the Catholic priests that abused children, they're men abusing little boys. Just because a few of them are like that does not mean that every Catholic priest is a pedophile, you know?
Right.
So I
That
think it's old school mentality because that's the way we were raised. I mean, my grandmother, I mean, she was been 90, she was 94 when she passed away in 2002. Okay. And when I was at her house, she was telling me about the neighbors, and she had to whisper to me that they were black. And I'm like, yeah, so. And that's just the way she was raised. And, if I wasn't her granddaughter, she probably would have said another derogatory term because that is the way she was raised. With us, we pretty much accept people for who they are. I mean, there are a lot of people our age that don't do that. They're very much against anyone being gay, against anyone being trans, against anyone doing whatever. But it's for me, it's if you're a guy, if you're gay, if you're a lesbian, I don't care. Just don't bring it to me because I'm not. I'll accept
right.
you for who you are. The only time I ever got mad at a lesbian was when she pinned me down and tried to kiss me. Okay, I'm telling you, and that was
Well,
scary. She made me look small. Okay, so we just won't go there. But it's I think that's a lot of the issues nowadays. There's still people that are going back on that old school mentality that just doesn't work.
yep.
DMV. Oh yeah, there was a
Becky,
lady at the DMV that did like me,
uh,
but
Becky, I think that you're absolutely correct. It's the old school mentality. But before I hand it over to Jen, I know she got something to say. I go back to what I said in the first part. What if and I'm not going to mention names, but I had a conversation with a coworker, and I said, okay, so what if your grandson was gay? And he looked at me and he was like, I have never thought of that. I was like, so would you disown your own flesh and blood? He goes, well, I can't answer that. I'm like, well, then you need to sort some things out. But Jen, go ahead.
I wasn't gonna say anything.
Oh no, I'm sorry, George.
No, I have.
Well,
I don't have a lot. I don't have a lot to say about that because, well, but like I said before, I mean, I guess I could say it on the air. I mean, he doesn't keep it a secret. My son is gay, and I don't have a problem with it. I mean, we've met his boyfriend, and you know,
It makes
it
him
hasn't
happy,
changed
and
him.
even if he,
I mean, my gay son rides a motorcycle.
yeah,
I mean, a sport bike,
he's still
nonetheless.
he's still your
Mhm.
son, and even if he
Yeah,
wasn't, even if he wasn't gay, he'd still be your son.
Yeah.
So
yeah, yeah,
you love him
So
because he's your son.
yeah.
yeah.
He's
So
I knew a
so George.
very strict Catholic family that ended up, the youngest son ended up being a very flamboyant gay man. And his mother, who was like big in our church, she accepted him for who he was. And
Mhm.
she didn't care what the church said. And that's another thing, with the houses of worship, everybody there's different religions. And, the shootings and attacks we've seen in these um, religious buildings. I won't say exactly which ones because there's been many. There's been churches, there's been temples, there's been synagogues, mosques, there's all sorts. Everybody that believes in a religion is entitled to believe what they want to believe, in my opinion, anyway. I'm not going to put you down because I was raised Catholic, and even though I don't practice it, you're bad because you're not a Catholic. No, I don't judge you like that. I don't care what religion you are. I don't care what sex you are. I don't care what nationality you are. If you're an asshole to me, I'm not going to be nice to you.
Mhm.
That's all it is. But a lot, the houses of worship that have been attacked, it's been always by someone from another religion. And it's because they didn't like them. And it goes all the way back to way before Christianity started, and way back, it goes, their hatred goes back that far. And it's kind of like, people saying that, you know all white people are terrible because was slavery in the United States. Well, honestly, my family did not own slaves. We didn't come over here until like the turn of the century. So we didn't own them here. Okay. So you can't blame me. It's not my fault that someone in your family back in the 1800s was owned. That
Mhm.
it's not my problem. I didn't do it to you. So don't take it out on me. And the religion and the different races and this, it's just a bunch of, it drives me nuts that people can't accept people for who they are. You know, would you still like me if I was Latina or Mexican or Saudi Arabian or Indian or anything? I'd still be me? I probably
Mhm.
wouldn't be this. Be like this. I'd probably be a little bit more reserved. I don't know. Maybe I'd be worse. But
But you,
it's
but
just
Becky, with that being said, it's all about being accepted. And what bothers me is the people that don't accept, say, somebody who's gay or Muslim or black or whatever. It's like, what is it about yourself that you hate so much that you have to hate somebody that means you no harm? Like, I don't like I so when I was younger, obviously, we've been over this. I think I was such a follower. So if somebody was gay or whatever, I would make fun of them, right? Because I was stupid, I was ignorant. Now I just don't give a shit. Like, I judge people on their character.
mhm.
I think and part of this show is all based off of respect.
Yeah.
George, I applaud you for sharing your family. It's not a secret. I don't want to say that. I don't want to
yeah.
insult you. But thank you for just mentioning that. But my question to you is like, so when he told you, you didn't love him any less, right? You didn't. you didn't look
No.
at him any different. See, and
No.
you know, and a lot of the people,
he didn't change. I mean, he had early on, he had a couple girlfriends, but he didn't change as a person. He was still the same person when he made the decision, when that's what he, I don't want to say, I don't know if make the decision is the right term, but when it happened, I mean, he didn't become a different person. He was the same person, still liked everything else was still the same. I mean, he still liked all the same things other
Yeah.
than other than the sex of the person that he was with.
Yeah.
and I'm sure that you and his mom were just like, okay, we still love you, and yeah, I mean, but and
Yeah.
that's the way it should just be.
She
Um,
knew first. She knew before I did.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
But she didn't tell me. She felt it was him. It was his,
Yep. That's
I don't know.
big.
I don't know. Maybe it's because of some of my hobbies of what I did, maybe that's why he didn't tell me right away. I don't know.
But that's big respect that I like that. I respect that your wife was like she knew, and she was like, no, this has to come from. So
Yeah.
I respect that absolutely. That Jen, what was one of the things that you have on your sheet that you wanted to talk about?
No, it was just about the shooting that happened today. There was a statement by a father of one of the Parkland school shootings. His daughter passed away, and he said that some of her friends that were in the shooting attend Florida State University, and they were there in this shooting too. So that's two shootings in their lifetime they had to go through.
Wow,
Awful.
wow, wow, huh? Becky.
Yes.
Oh no, I just didn't know if you disappeared. You went all
No,
dark.
it's my hand because I'm trying to break up my ice.
Okay.
And if
Well,
George can tell you, this thing is probably, obscenely filled with crushed ice, and I don't have my
gotcha.
spoon with me, so I can't eat it like I normally would.
um, I was just making sure that you weren't froze because you kind of disappeared. But okay, so she's disappeared real quick, but she'll come back. So,
I'm
so
still
if anybody's watching this, anybody from
loosening up my ice.
the LGBTQ, we support you. So don't think like we don't. But so during commercial break, I had mentioned something that I forgot until we were talking on this show. You all are familiar with I don't know the time frame, so about the DC sniper, was it 2 or 3 days, Jen or George?
Remember that PC sniper? Remember that the guy
Yeah.
driving along with the kid?
Didn't they just set up like I don't know, like there was a freeway and they just set up like up in the trees or whatever? Okay.
Yeah.
I can't look it up on
And
my phone because I'm like on with you guys, so I'd have to double check
Yeah.
it. I have to
right,
Same.
yeah,
I'm gonna have to borrow John's phone again. And now it's getting dark, so you can't see me, so I look mysterious.
Ooh.
George appreciate the second one.
hold on.
Yeah.
I'll look it up real quick. I
I
apologize.
got
I'm not.
Let's see.
Go ahead.
Coordinated shootings that took place in Washington, D.C. over 3 weeks in October of 2002. The attacks were carried out by American serial killer John Allen Muhammad and his 17-year-old accomplice Lee Boyd Malvo, resulting in 17 deaths. Okay.
But
It
it was
traveled in
just
a
for
blue 1990 Chevy Caprice. In 2003, Muhammad was sentenced to death, and in 2009, he was executed by lethal injection. Malvo's in life sentence. Okay, and I'm trying to figure out. They cut a hole in the back of the car,
Yep.
and they were shooting out of the back of the car. The first one was in. They shot through the window of a Michael's craft store. It just narrowly missed a cashier. No one was injured, so they thought it was random. And then about an hour later, uh, a person was killed at the parking lot of a Shoppers Food warehouse. And the next day, 4 people were shot dead within a span of 2 hours in Aspen Hill and in nearby areas in Montgomery County.
For like a week.
Yeah, let's see.
And
Another
this
was
was
killed that evening, and then the next morning they started in. There was a taxi driver, and then a babysitter was killed at a shopping center. She had just gotten off the bus and was sitting on a bench reading a book. Another person was sitting at an intersection. They were just They were just shooting for no reason.
yeah, that's what I was getting at. It was just to like, hey, we just have nothing better to do, right?
Yeah.
Same thing
Yeah.
Much.
Jen and George said about the lady. Like,
Yeah, about the girl, yeah.
I'm just like, so we all get bored, and again, I'm not pretending like I know anything because I don't. I just think like there's more going on, and I don't think it helps matters that the news and social media covers everything that goes on.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like to go and just shoot people for like why like which leads me I know I'm jumping around and I forget names. I'm sorry, I apologize. But that kid that walked down the street with an AK-47 or whatever, like
Yeah.
why? How do you? I don't know. I the more I think about it, the more I get frustrated because this shit happens way too often.
Oh, now we have a motive for this one. For the sniper here. Says investigators and the prosecution suggested during pretrial motions that Muhammad intended to kill his second ex-wife, who he felt had estranged him from his children. The other shootings were intended to cover up the motive for the crime.
One could have done that, not 18 or whatever.
Yeah. And they
Wait.
made a little nest inside the trunk of that Caprice and cut a hole in it so they could shoot out of it.
Okay, Becky, turn on a light.
You just don't like to see.
Oh, gee.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just again, I know I'm gonna
Is that better?
I might cross a barrier here, but I think it was Becky who touched on it. So one, this is my opinion. Nobody else is on the show. One stupid dumbass here, one stupid dumbass there does something completely tragic, idiotic with a gun, and now every single gun owner is looked at differently. And that is fucking wrong. George, go ahead, Jen.
It's worse because now they're getting, what is it, the AR-15s or whatever that shoot like 100 bullets in 2 seconds. What normal person needs that? Like, I understand guns, yes, protect yourself, whatever, but
Yeah.
but especially the ones with the.
I mean, some people like them just for the heck of it. My husband, who was blind and couldn't shoot them, is actually the person that taught me how to shoot. But other than target practice, I do not see any reason to have one because, if there was a zombie apocalypse or the end of the world was coming, yeah, I could see that. And I know he was like one of those believers that thought the world was ending because he had me stockpile a bunch of shit. But anyway, that's a story for another day. But, I don't see the need for the big ones on a regular basis. I mean, yeah, I know they're fun to play with. I mean, yeah, I played with the AK. I played with the 30-06. I had a bunch of the regular 22s, and they're fun to pop off. But to actually need it for yourself at home, I mean, yeah, they'd probably take out someone faster than a handgun because you can actually aim them a little better, I guess. But
I know George was raising his hand. Go ahead, George. George.
I have one, but mine is New York State legal now because the new law in New York State is I can't have a removable clip.
Yep, you got to have the.
I have to top
okay.
load
Yep.
it. I have to top load it. It can only hold 10 rounds.
Yep.
I hunt with it. I hunt with it.
I mean, now there's rifle hunting is legal. For the longest time, it wasn't.
Well, it wasn't in our county.
In our county,
it was in the county south of us in Schuyler County. It's been legal for 40 or 50 years.
Yeah, because I mean,
But
around here it
In
was like
Seneca
shotgun only.
County, they opened it up like 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's when I got because I didn't own a rifle before that. I fired rifles, obviously.
Yeah.
But the
Um,
reason I went AR-15, I'm comfortable with it because it's basically looks like my military rifle when I was in.
And quite honestly, those rifles don't kick back as hard, and they're kind of
No,
lighter than a
no.
shotgun.
No.
So
I do have another rifle, but it's not a fast fire-in rifle. It's a bolt action, so it's slower. And it's a 30-06, so it's for longer
Right.
distance.
yeah, longer.
But what I was going to say, George, was one, you have a military background, and people are going to say, "Oh, you're just saying this because he's a good friend of yours," but you're also responsible.
Yeah.
Which separates you from, say, the DC sniper or some
Yeah.
idiot.
How old and 18 and 20 with failed mental evaluations and psych evaluations getting these guns? Like that's
Yeah,
where
that's the
Um,
problem. It's because your
That's
average
not
your
for a
av-
rifle. For a
Right.
rifle, that's not part of the registration.
Yeah.
not
You basically,
no, that's for handguns.
basically what I did when I turned in for both of my rifles was I gave them my driver's license and they
Mm-hmm.
copied
Yeah.
it, and then my social security number, and it was just a basic background check.
It's a basic background
Yeah.
check too. It's
Yeah.
one just to make
Now-
sure you're not a felon.
Now, I
And
don't know. Now, for
now
a
that-
pistol,
that
I
is-
don't know about New York State, but
that
I
is a
know
little bit more
that goes by
complicated.
it goes by the county, and I know
Yep.
Seneca County takes like 6 weeks for you to get approved. So I don't know what all, and I know you need
Barely.
three personal references.
Yep.
yeah.
Actually, I
Okay.
needed 4. I needed
Well,
4.
when did you get yours though?
Oh, geez, I can't remember. It was back in 2006 or 7 or something
Yeah,
like
they
that.
changed it.
Oh, okay.
It's new.
Because I needed 4, and
Yeah. The rules
I needed
are
4.
different, and it takes a lot longer. Now
Yeah,
it literally,
mine was real quick, but
yeah. Well,
George, I
you used
walked
to,
into a store in Massachusetts with my pistol permit. Walk in with $100 and walk out with a pistol right there and then.
Yes.
he's got a
if you
special
have a
one.
pistol permit already, I can go in and buy one and walk out with one in 5 minutes. I'm
Yeah.
talking about acquiring a New York State pistol
To
permit.
acquire the permit itself takes a few weeks.
No. When I was 18 years old, my old
Yes.
man saw to it because
Yes.
he's a state
In
trooper. I
Massachusetts,
had a self-protection home and property license.
John, I'm sorry, but you just said Massachusetts,
It was
correct?
that license.
He knows. He's from Massachusetts.
Yeah.
New York's
Yeah.
a lot stricter.
I know it is.
Yeah,
but
New
Like
York
for me,
is
I mean,
New
I
York
don't.
is one of the strictest handgun states
I mean, I'm
in
not.
the union.
I don't
can take a
carry
New
it
York
because
State-
I
You
don't have a
can't take
use.
a tail, sorry.
Yeah, you can take a New York State pistol permit in any state in the country, and you can carry your pistol.
Yeah, I
legally.
mean, right now I'm not.
You
Right now,
cannot you cannot legally carry a pistol in New York State with another state permit.
No,
Okay,
I
well-
have my permit. I have my permit in Massachusetts. When I came to New York State, I transferred. The transfer was in a matter of an hour. I
Yes.
was already in the system.
When was that, John? When was that? When did you come to New York
Right
State?
there and then.
in the 90s, late
Yeah.
90s. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
in like
it's 30 years.
2010, they changed it. In 2010, they changed it.
Because
If
we
you
all
had
know what
come-
happened.
If you had come after 2010, you would not have gotten
Yeah,
that.
he was here before that. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
it would have taken about 6 weeks for you to get it.
Yeah, mine
It
was.
changed. Yeah.
What took me the longest was getting
It's-
everything back
yeah.
from my references, and
Right,
that just
right.
reminds me I got to finish filling out the paperwork for someone else because they asked me to be a reference for.
Oh,
There you go. You're welcome. But what I was saying though, George, is
it can't
and
be
John-
Jeff. It can't be Jeff.
No,
You're in a different county.
Jeff lives in a different county, so
Yeah,
no,
but,
it's actually for someone that lives in Seneca.
but George. So what I was saying though, what separates you and millions and millions and millions of Americans different from those stupid yahoos that think whatever, is you guys are responsible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the
These
there's a big difference.
people, you know,
Oh, yeah.
like Jen, I know you started off the show. I can't remember the name. I didn't write it down in time. But the person wanted to purposely do this on the 26-year anniversary, John, 26 of
Yeah.
Columbine. So it's not to me, this person wanted to get their 15 minutes of fame on the day of a very sad and tragic day. So to me, this person is a fucking idiot, and he's not responsible because. Okay, so George, you go hunting. You know, I don't know all the parameters, so forgive me. I'm just going to add up here. November 14th comes around. You know, it's deer season. You're going to go deer hunting, right? You're going to get prepared. You're going to get this. You're going to get that, right? This kid was like, okay, I'm going to plan on shooting up blah 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 blah, but I'm going to do it on this day. No, so it's stupid, and I know that there's been TV shows and that there's been movies of stuff, and it's glorifying fucking assholes, and this is what leads to somebody else down the road being, oh, well, they made a movie of this, now I want a movie made of me, so I'm going to go ahead and do this, and that's never more apparent than this individual who wanted to do it on the anniversary of Columbine, but because it fell on a Sunday and there was nobody in school, just
And because we talked about it, so didn't happen.
Yeah. Thankfully, they stopped
Luckily,
it before it happened.
what was it? You hear, you speak up or whatever. Well, luckily that person heard them talk about it and spoke up and told somebody.
Yeah.
Not everyone does that.
Yeah, but I mean, they just think, think about it. They make movies or TV shows or some sort of docu-series, right? And somebody wants to be on TV or famous, and it's just I think it needs to stop. I understand it's going to be talked about. It's going to be this. It's going to be that. But like, too many people get glorified, and it's just it's just whatever. My heart goes out to everybody that had. Jen, you said that this on the campus, several students, this is their second time in a shooting. I mean, like, how do we stop this? This is how I want to end the show. I'm going to each of you have an open floor. How do we end this? How do we come about it? Because obviously having laws does not matter.
No,
the board is trying to raise the age to 21, but that's not gonna stop anything. People
That's
get
not-
it.
they
Somebody
get-
else.
they
or
can
get
get somebody else to buy it. Yep.
It's
Yeah,
stop people.
because you can buy it illegally, and
The people that are committing these crimes most of the time don't obtain them legally. So what criminal is going to say, okay, because there's a law, I'm not going to do it.
Yep.
It's
Agreed.
like, it's like saying, drugs are bad, so therefore nobody's going to touch them. We know they're bad, but just
and I
because
know
there's a law on them doesn't mean that other people aren't going to use them.
Right.
You're driving a car, there's rules and regulations for the road, but does that mean everyone follows it? No, because I had an idiot pass me. I was going 30 in the middle of the village with obviously a double solid, and he passed me because he didn't like the fact that I was driving 30 through the village. I'm like, well, you go get those cops because I'm not gonna. So it's just there's rules for a reason, and there's it's for safety, and it's these. I don't know, my not thinking straight. I guess I'm getting Jeffernese of the brain, but we're just these people are. I mean, the ones from the shootings that we were talking about, they're dead. Most of them are dead because they killed themselves. They obviously had something wrong. There was a mental problem, and they were idiots. They were stupid. They didn't, even if they thought it through, they didn't really think it through. They didn't realize what the devastation they were going to bring on to the other people. They weren't thinking clear like that. They were just like, I don't like it, so I don't like the way things are, so I'm just gonna start shooting everybody up, which is wrong. We were taught right from wrong, but it doesn't mean everyone follows it. Basically, in my mind, just don't be a dick. Follow the rules. Do what you're supposed to do. The world would be a lot better place if people just weren't so nasty to each other. It's just because you don't believe what I believe in and you don't respect the things that I respect, it doesn't mean that you're a better person or I'm a better person. It just means this is what I believe in. I was raised Catholic. Do I eat meat on Fridays? Yeah. Am I going to go to hell for that? Well, if I'm going to hell for that, I'm going to be there anyway because I do a lot worse things than eat meat on Friday. I'll tell you that. It's just something, just because these are my beliefs or this is what I like and this is what I think should be done doesn't mean you have to agree with it. But rules are there for a reason. There's no reason why these people needed to go into these schools or these universities or these religious houses of worship and just shoot people up because they didn't like them. That's
Yep.
just treat people the way you want to be treated. I mean, I know it's not actually in the commandments. If you want to listen to that, it's just the golden rule. If you think about it, do unto others as you would do unto yourself. Treat people the way you want to be treated. If you want to be treated like an asshole, that's I'm gonna treat you like one. If you're nasty to me, I'll be nasty right back. I've been like that my whole life, and lately I've just the past I don't know since like it's been way after my heart attack, so 2016 on, more like 2020, kind of when COVID hit. I kind of got a little bit more outspoken and spoke my mind, and whether people liked it or not, that's how it was. I lost a few friends along the way, but they really weren't friends because they thought they could push me around by their words because that's what they wanted. And you know what? It doesn't matter what your age, what your sex is, what your age is, what your religion is. It doesn't matter what your race is. I don't care. If you're going to be nasty to me, I'm going to be nasty back. You got to follow the rules. Be nice to others. Play nice. You know?
Yeah, and I'm just gonna end the show here in a minute, but you know, like I said earlier, this show is just on respect. All 7 or 8 of us, we're all from different walks of life, and at one time, none of us talked. Not all of us talked, and look at us now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this show is about. It's about respect, and we hope that if you're listening or watching, that we hope that you find some help, some knowledge, with this show, and we hope that we never have to hear about another mass shooting or somebody walking into a mosque or a movie theater or a LGBTQ. Just anybody, just stop. Like Becky said, just stop. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we've taken up enough of your guys' time. You guys are beautiful people. We lost Jackie briefly. She fell off the ship. We never turned around to go get her, but we threw her a life preserver, so she's out there floating somewhere. But this has been another episode of JK'z Rewatchable Hour. I am your host, JDUBBS, along with Jennifer, George, Becky, and somewhere's out there. I don't know where she is. She's Jackie. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. I'm going to stop recording as soon as I find the bot. And there.